insurance partner, and we'll just keep the meeting moving.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Are there bonus points and awards for people sitting in the first couple of rows?
I want to.
Boy, I tell you what.
You're so loud we can hear you.
Thank you, Avi. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. That has never been one of my shortcomings, or it has been. It's been an interesting couple of weeks since we met last time. There have been a number of developments in the insurance market. We've talked previously about what is going on in Citizens, that Citizens has a mandate from the legislature to reduce its population, or the number of policies it's writing, and its exposure. I mentioned previously that we know that it hasn't had a rate increase. There are rate increases scheduled for the next 3 or 4 years. Those are already in the works. Those are going to happen, 10% a year minimum. I mentioned that Citizens has come out with a new policy contract. They have deleted a number of miscellaneous coverages, restricted coverage, eliminated coverage. They now have a policy contract that is considerably less than the industry standard. So if you buy a Citizens homeowner policy, you are getting less coverage for your dollar. We just got a notice 3 days ago that Citizens is now going to restrict the maximum amount of coverage it writes on any single home to $1 million. That had been $2 million. That is going to be a major, major change in the market, particularly east and particularly on the high-value homes. If you're east and you had Citizens for your wind coverage or had Citizens for your home insurance, John, this is your market. Citizens is going to write $1 million coverage. That is it. That is basically about a 4,000 square foot or 3,500 square foot high-value custom luxury home. You just killed all of the people with older homes that may not meet all the new underwriting standards in the Sanctuary and in Royal Palm and over on Wavecrest and all the other places. It's going to be very, very interesting. We have been preaching to homeowners and been suggesting to realtors for years that we all need to tell people that they need to bring homes to current windstorm codes. If you bring the house to current windstorm codes, roof, envelope protection, hurricane shutters, impact glass, etc. There are markets out there, and they're very competitive markets to write your insurance. If you don't bring in the code, the only real option, the only viable option cost-wise is Citizens, and Citizens is now going to cap it at $1 million. And Citizens will not write, if you've got a $3 million house and you want to buy your first $1 million worth of coverage from Citizens, no. It's not going to fly anymore. Citizens will only insure a house that's worth $1 million. They're not going to sell you the first $1 million on a $3 million house. So that is going to be a real issue going forward. It's going to be a real issue going forward in the high value arena. We have seen a couple of other interesting developments. We now have, please don't kill the messenger. I'm just a poor messenger. We now have, as of February 1st, a revised windstorm mitigation form. Now our third in the last 3 years, where there was one revision 2 years ago, and now we have a second revision. So there's a new windstorm mitigation form as of February 1st. We've already received notice from 2 carriers that they're going to mandate that new form. I expect that everybody else will follow. Everybody else will follow in short order. So for those of you who you have your own favorite inspector, your local inspector, please make sure that when you order an inspection, you say you are using the new form, correct? You are familiar with the new rules, the new guidelines. Ask them that. And if they say no, either tell them to get up to date or you got to find another inspector. Because if we get an inspection in February 2nd and it's on the old form, it's not following the new guidelines, it's not going to be accepted. So heads up on that. The big statewide companies, they're all on board. I mean, they know what's going on. They probably were involved in drafting a lot of the rules. The new form, again, it is a new form. There are new rules and procedures. At least one of those is a good one. One of the changes that is being made is very good and is something to be aware of and know to tell your clients. It used to be, under the old rules, to get hurricane protection for the house, all of the openings, garage door, all glazed openings, meaning windows, had to be protected, and to get the best credits, had to be protected what they call a large missile impact. That was just the term they used, basically a 9-pound something flying through it. That applied to garage doors, and what we saw in lots of places where people had shutters, but they did not have a garage door that was impact rated. It may very well have been wind rated. We see a lot of garage doors that are what they call wind rated, but not impact rated. In other words, they'll withstand the wind, it won't withstand the 9-pound flying object. The new rule is that the garage doors simply need to be wind rated. We've already had a couple of situations. We have a client of David Greenglass that was just going to have to put in $3,000 for new garage doors. And we don't think he's going to have to put in $3,000 for garage doors now. He's thrilled. He's thrilled. We just says, hey, you got to wait till February 1st to get the inspection form with the new rules on the new form. He's got a garage door that is wind rated but not impact rated. So it's not all bad news that we have a new form and some new procedures. Some of it's good. The other thing that we saw, and we sent out a blast email on this, was Universal Property and Casualty Insurance Company, which you've all heard me say is not my favorite insurance company. They're not a particularly good communicator, and they're not a particularly great service company, but they are a large writer of a lot of insurance down here. They're the #3 writer of homeowners policies in South Florida. Universal is having a premium increase next month. They tell us it's 14% average statewide. I say that's wonderful. I don't have any clients that live average statewide. Will you please tell me what it is in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County? Well, we really don't know. We don't have those numbers. I say, God bless you. You folks are idiots. Seriously, it's basically the conversation we have. It's a 14% average statewide increase. Please don't ask me any more details. I can't get any more details out of the insurance company. So when my clients ask me what the rate increase is, I look really stupid. I don't need any help looking stupid, but Universal does help in that area. We have a rate increase. That's an issue. That's not that big an issue because we know homeowners premiums are still trending up. The big issue is that Universal is the preeminent writer of homes built pre-1995. You've heard me say it's hard getting insurance on homes built pre-1995. Universal has probably been, if not the most competitive market, the second most competitive market in that area. So for all your pre-1995 homes, your Woodfields and Broken Sounds and everything else, that's definitely going to impact that market. The other thing, which is even more serious, is that Universal was by far the largest writer of condominium homeowners policies. Wrote probably 80-90% of the condominium homeowners policies in South Florida. They have just stopped writing condominium homeowners policies east of the Intercoastal. Nada, no more. They may reopen in the future. They write so many, they've got such a market slug. I don't think they're going to come back into that market. They are just so overweighted in business in that area. They just went out. The #1 market, the 80% of the market for condominium policies east of the Intercoastal just shut off. That means business is going to go to Citizens. It means that certainly the windstorm portion of condo policies is going to go to Citizens. There are other carriers. We have at least 3 other carriers that will write condo policies east of the Intercoastal. Most of them will write it excluding wind. Most of them will write it excluding wind. Premiums are higher than Universal. The windstorm goes in Citizens. So now going to be a slug of tens of thousands of new policies going to Citizens just when Citizens is trying to reduce business. So it's what the effect of that is going to be downstream, I don't know. But it's been an interesting 2 weeks. Welcome to 2012. Other than that, we're getting a lot of calls. We had yesterday was a very, very nice day. I really appreciate it. And we got calls from 2 Lang agents. One was literally sitting with clients. They had just signed a contract. There was a house over on the east side. There were a number of insurance issues. And we walked the clients through and answered questions and then did it right, 5:30 last night on a conference call. And I think put a lot of issues to rest. The other one was from a Lang agent who had a longtime friend who was having some insurance issues, and we were able to help. Neither one of them might result in some business, the other one may not, but it was the type of calls we like to get where people have issues, have problems, and we can help solve them. So, please, as I always say, let us know whenever we can help anybody. Questions? Nothing? Too loud?
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
All right, Seth, why don't you come up?
Which one?
Good point.
Hey guys,
Morning.
I probably have more material to discuss with you guys today than I have time for, because I understand Seth, Eric, and Scott need to still go. Kay had asked me in the middle of the week, beginning of the week, to give her some materials on more or less a show and tell type basis, and then told me, okay, now you're going to talk about them. So I try to prepare a little something here on 3 separate topics. Two relate to areas where I've been getting a lot of phone calls or questions over the last several weeks, and one is a war story. So the first thing I want to talk about, and we've disseminated a couple of materials, is the reissue rate paradigm. I seem to get a lot of phone calls from folks asking me about when reissue rates apply, how it works, what it means, and I figured we'll spend some time trying to explain that and talk about that. This, I think, is important for you guys because when you're sitting down with your customer and they tell you, we just bought the property, or I have a mortgagee title insurance policy, aren't I entitled to reissue credit? You'll now be armed with information and understand exactly how the process works. I suggest you keep this paradigm in your briefcase because it explains the process, I think, very well, and you can explain it to your client off that paradigm. This is called the rate book. I have these at my office. I've disseminated them to your office. I have a rate card that I've given to everybody. And we pull our information as it relates to reissue credit and the title premium in general out of this rate book. And essentially what reissue credit is a discount or credit on the title premium that's charged for an owner's title insurance policy. And the way it works is the rate book shows a policy amount, a premium, and a reissue credit amount. So what we do when we're applying reissue credit or figuring out whether or not it's applicable is we have to take the lesser of the reissue credit based on the policy or the prior policy, the lesser of. So what that means is if you've got hypothetically a $250,000 owner's policy that you're about to write, next to the $250,000 policy amount, there's a reissue credit amount. You don't necessarily take that amount unless the policy that you're writing is less than the original owner's policy. So if the original owner's policy when the person bought 2 years ago is $200,000, you're taking the reissue credit rate that's aligned to or associated with the $200,000 policy amount. Does everybody follow that? So it's the lesser of the original policy reissue credit rate or the new owner's policy reissue credit rate. Okay, that being said, let's run through the paradigm to see when it even applies. The key is, and I always tell the agents this, you have to have the prior owner's title insurance policy because we have to remit that to the title underwriter when we send in the premium. If we don't have that policy, and as the paradigm reflects at the very top, reissue rates are not available. Okay? We assume that we have the policy, so we move on. The question is, does the prior policy insure an owner or a lender? If it insures the owner, we're good. If it insures the lender, that's a mortgagee policy. We're not good. Okay? Reissue rates do not apply if what's delivered to you and then delivered to me is a mortgagee title insurance policy. It has to be the owner's policy. Assuming that it's the owner's policy, we move on. It says, does the prior policy insure the current owner who is now selling or refinancing? If the answer is no, it insures John Smith. They've given you an inappropriate and ineffective owner's policy for purposes of reissue credit. It needs to insure the person or the party that's now selling and looking for the reissue credit on that transaction. So you need to look at that. If they give you a title commitment, no good. If they give you a mortgagee policy, no good. If they give you an owner's policy and it's insuring somebody other than them, no good. Okay? Let's move on. Assuming that we have an owner's policy for the current owner, Is the new pending transaction a refinance or a sale? Most of our deals are obviously going to be sales. If it's a sale, is the subject property improved at the present time? If the answer is no, reissue rate applies to the new owner's policy relative to the work or the dollars that are going into the improvements and the construction of the home. Okay, a lot of people buy a lot and then they improve it a year or two later. So that's why that particular section is in the paradigm. Most of our transactions, though, are resales. So let's just move on. And the last one is the new owner's policy effective date less than 3 years after the effective date of the prior owner's policy. That's basically saying, is the effective date of the new policy that we're about to issue within 3 years of the date of the prior owner's policy that we're using? If it's not, reissue rates do not apply. It's got to be within that 3-year window, and it's to the day. So keep in mind, when you're setting up closing dates in your contract, if you've got a client that's well aware of reissue rates and the fact that they'll get a little bit of a credit, you might want to try to schedule, even though it's not an exact science all the time, the closing date to be within the confines of that 3-year period. Okay? If it's 3 years and a day, if it's 4 years, reissue rates will not apply, even if you've satisfied all the other steps. Okay? Does everybody understand that? Any questions?
What would you say the reissue rate is, let's say percentage?
It's really not a percentage. It's really based on a dollar amount, and basically what it is right here. Up to $100,000 of liability written, it's now $3.30 per thousand.
Oh.
Okay? Over $100,000 up to $1 million, it's $3 per thousand. That's the way they figure out the reissue rate credit. Okay, as opposed to the regular premium, that's $5.75 from 0 to 100,000, and $5 from 100,000 up to $1 million. Okay, so it's a nice savings depending on where you fall. Okay, so that's that. Let me jump to the next thing, and this one's going to be the war story. Just yesterday, we were successful in, a week before that, in securing short sale approval on a transaction that had a first and a second. And we're all excited, we're ready to move the file into our closing department, through the title company. We do our title search, and lo and behold, what comes up is a judgment in favor of Chase, which is one of the banks that has a lien on the property, but their credit card division. Judgment was probably for about $35,000. We didn't have that kind of room. The seller certainly doesn't have that kind of money to close the transaction by coming up with it and collecting it on the closing statement. So, a couple things happen now. We're going to be negotiating both with the credit card company to see if they'll take something less than that which they're owed, to do away with this judgment and make sure that this particular seller who we're representing doesn't have to worry about it after the closing. But at the same time, we're going to take that information and play two against the middle, try to go back to the short sale lender and see if they'll agree to reduce the dollar amount that they've already approved and get this whole thing closed. That's not the important part. The important part is the following. We can get this deal done despite the fact that the parties that we're going to negotiate with have no idea how the homestead exemption works here and what happens and what we're capable of doing to completely eliminate the existence of that judgment on the property right now. Basically, the homestead laws exempt certain property, homesteaded property, from the ability of a creditor to collect on a judgment. This is a judgment that's been recorded as a certified copy in the public records, which therefore attaches to the real property. But if it's homesteaded property, what we have the ability to do, pursuant to Florida statute, I believe it's 222.01, is file what's called a notice of homestead. You file it in the public records, almost like a lawsuit. It gets served on the creditor, And that creditor has basically a 45-day period to contest the fact that this is the debtor's homestead property. If they don't have the ability, which more often than not, they're not going to have the ability to do so, it's pretty simple to assert that a property is your homestead if you filed for it and you can show the exemption. If they do not contest within that 45-day time frame the fact that this is the debtor's homestead, that judgment basically gets wiped out as it relates to that particular piece of property, and you're capable of proceeding with your transaction from the title company's perspective and from the statute's perspective without having to pay off or satisfy in any denomination that particular judgment. So while we're going to play two against the middle and try to kill a couple of birds with one stone, we have the ammunition of a statute that allows us to tell the creditor, you either take this or you're getting absolutely nothing because we're going to file this notice of homestead. 45 days to respond. You're not going to have the ability to contest the fact that this is the individual's homestead because I've got the paperwork to show you that they filed and it is their homestead. And you're going to be looking to collect this judgment somehow, some way down the line. So just a little something for you guys to know. It looks like a brick wall's in front of our faces. We find ways to get around the brick wall. I filed these before. It does delay the process, the closing, obviously a bit because of the 45-day requirement, but it enables us to close transactions. And at the same time, we're going to work with the seller to try to resolve this problem for him altogether by settling with the credit card company and getting approval from the short sale lender to actually get it closed.
So on a homestead, is the only thing that will actually stick the taxes?
Taxes, IRS liens, I believe child support obligations, yeah, I believe child support obligations, and mechanics liens, things of that nature. If somebody comes and does work at the property, the mechanics lien is a thorn in this side. There are statutes on that as well. I haven't researched that for purposes of today's discussion, but these are judgments, third-party judgments, whether it be individual credit card companies, hospitals, whatever the case may be, where a certified copy of the judgment has been re-recorded in the public records so it attaches as a lien. If you just record the judgment and it's not certified, that's not going to attach. If it's certified, it attaches. Okay? And there's a whole process, it's Chapter 55 of the Florida statutes, that relates to how you go about the process of certifying and recording a judgment so it attaches as a lien.
Sorry, when you did the search, why did you didn't see this lien from the credit card?
When we do our searches, when the short sale is being negotiated, we do a pencil search. And my first question to my staff was, this didn't pop up on the pencil search? And the answer was no, because more often than not on the pencil searches, deeds will pop up, mortgages will pop up, claims of liens will pop up, list pendencies will pop up, but it's not a full-blown search. The full-blown search, once we got approval, and we go through the process of doing our title work, where we order a title search, that gives you everything and anything.
But you said it was certified, so didn't that put a lien on the property that should have popped up on
It
it?
didn't pop up in the pencil search. It's just, like I said, a pencil search, we do it on the computer. We don't order it, we do it within seconds, so it's not an exact science. The true title searches cost money, and we wait until we have an approval, and we go through the title process that way.
Are they, the homeowners, are they able to get, let's just say they haven't been paying their taxes for the last 3 years, are they able to file this homestead and get that, privilege of writing off that debt?
You're talking about real estate taxes?
Yes.
I mean, you have the ability, yeah, it has nothing to do with it. You have the ability to file for homestead if you, fall into the appropriate category and you have the right to receive the exemption. And we can talk about that in a second. That's actually the third matter. The fact that you're not paying your real estate taxes, becomes a completely different set of issues. But it doesn't affect the actual filing and the ability to receive the exemption.
Well, now that you mentioned it, is it affected if they haven't been paying the government their taxes? And there's a lien or something from the IRS? Does that have
purposes of
anything to
filing the
do with
exemption?
this?
No, I mean, you have the
Just the
right,
way
if
it
you
has-
own the property as of January 1st, and you're a permanent resident of the state of Florida, and there's certain things that you have to generate and provide to prove that, you have the right to receive the exemption. Now, if you fail to pay taxes and you fail to pay the IRS, again, a whole different set of circumstances and issues. Howard first.
You got to be very careful with Chase right now because they're in the process of selling those loans. And then you got to start all over again with the next person if they're willing to talk to you. It's just something, I don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it, but they're selling it or giving it to another asset manager, and it's becoming a little bit of a nightmare case.
Well,
Careful.
this particular short sale, we've got a pretty decent line of communication with this guy Ramon, and hopefully,
He doesn't know. He's the last to know.
yeah, well, hopefully he'll work with us, but more importantly, hopefully the credit card company will be smart and take something rather than nothing. But I'm happy to know that this deal won't fall apart because of something that we can't do to make it happen. So. All right, so the last thing I wanted to touch on was the fact that, staying in the homestead arena, the fact that the filing deadline for homestead exemption for calendar year 2012 is fast approaching. It's March 1st, 2012. So what I did was I photocopied our instructions for filing, disseminated a few copies. I don't know if I had enough. Wasn't sure how big the crowd would be. But important for everybody to know and to let their clients know that if in fact they purchase property in calendar year 2011 and it's their primary residence, they're deeming it to be their primary residence and their permanent residence of the state of Florida, get the homestead filed, okay? And it can be filed either by going physically to the office on Congress. It's right on Congress between Linton and Atlantic. Or I understand you can now do it, excuse me, online. I've highlighted in this particular document exactly what you need. If you go to PAPA, it's on their website as well, and gives you an explanation of what needs to be done. But let me explain, just for those who don't know, I'm sure everybody does, but just in case, exactly what the benefits of the homestead exemption are. Bottom line is, the homestead exemption is broken down into two sections, if you will. The first section deals with the concept that a permanent resident can't be taxed on up to $50,000 of their primary residence's home's assessed value. So basically what that means is you get the first $25,000 provided that the house is valued at least $50,000. Okay? You can get an additional $25,000 if the assessed value of your property is $75,000 or more. If your house falls within the $50,000 to $75,000 range of assessed value, then you can get a proportionate share of that additional $25,000. So the maximum exemption is $50,000, the minimum is $25,000, and then you can get fractional portions of the $25,000 additional exemption based on where your value falls in. Most of the properties we're working on, guys, I realize, are greater than $75,000, but for the few that are selling in Boca West at these ridiculous numbers and some of the other communities, it's obviously relevant. So that's issue one. And basically what they do is they take it off the assessed value. Okay, it doesn't necessarily affect the tax, because then they apply the millage rate, and the millage rate is what corresponds to the actual tax that's due. They take it off the assessed value of your property. The second thing that, and I think everybody knows this, is the Save Our Homes Amendment. That's been in play for many, many years, even before 2008, when they increased the exemption from 25 to a maximum of 50. But the Save Our Homes, I think, is critical, and not getting into portability and things of that nature. But if you've got the homestead exemption in play, basically the property appraiser's office is capped at what they can increase your assessed value on an annual basis at 3%. Starting in 2009, they also they put into effect some laws that relate to capping the increase on second homes and commercial property at 10%. So for folks that do commercial transactions, the cap is 10%, just statewide. But on regular homestead exemption, residential properties, primary residences, the Save Our Homes Amendment from years ago caps it at 3%. So it behooves just about everyone to make sure these filings are done. I mean, I've got some folks that I know that have bought very expensive properties, and money, I guess, is no object to them, and they just never get around to filing for the homestead exemption. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? I mean, this is real money. Save it. Why put it into somebody else's pocket? So I implore you all to let your clients know, maybe shoot out an email. I can send this in Adobe format to everybody, and just send it as a reminder to your customer. Get the filings done for 2012.
You just said something about second homes. I didn't think you could do it on a second if it's a second home.
That's the new law that they put into place. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but in 2009, they basically said, and this was when everybody was upside down and the world was falling apart, they basically said, we're going to put a cap on what we can increase commercial and second home properties of a residential nature at 10%.
But you have to file for something like that?
I believe, that's what I'm not sure about. I don't know if it goes hand in hand, if you've got an exemption in place, and then you've got a second home or a commercial piece of property, and you link it to an address or something like that.
And what about a real estate trust? A lot of our clients buy things and put it into,
As long as the beneficial owner of the trust is the permanent resident and has filed for the exemption, in a timely and proper fashion, you can still get the benefit of the homestead exemption. That's all I have. Any questions?
Sam got nervous, he saw me come with the hook. All right, now we're going to have Seth Caston come up and what are you talking about, VML?
Yeah, I want to talk about just a few minutes about View My Listing. I know there's a lot of confusion. You guys are receiving tons of emails all the time on viewmylisting.com. You probably have no idea what it is. I do hold classes about once a month on View My Listing. So just kind of go into it briefly what it is. It's a great program that allows you to keep track of your showings. Okay, so you can go onto this system, and there's no cost for this. And, if you need a username and password, contact me this afternoon, and I'll get you a login. But basically, you can go on to View My Listing, and you can keep track of all your showings that have happened on the property. Okay. Keep in mind, when someone calls the office for a showing, if you show your own property, we simply just give out your cell number, and the agent then calls you. If your property is on Lockbox or Supra, we mark down that information. Okay, it goes into our system, and you receive notification by email that a showing has been scheduled. Okay, and then the showing agent will receive feedback. Okay, once they fill out that feedback, that information goes into View My Listing. You'll receive an email, another email, and it'll go into that system, which then you can log into and see their showings, the feedback. Okay, you can then take that information and send it on to your customer. If you've given us your email for your customers, that information is going to go straight to them. Okay? So your customers may contact you and say, well, I keep getting emails from View My Listing. What is this? Well, now you know to tell them that this is showing feedback or things that have happened on the property. Okay? You can go into this system and set up, you did a virtual tour on a property, or you can put in that your house was in the newspaper. And once you put this into the system, an email is then sent to your customer letting them know that something happened on your property, whether it be a showing or an event. Okay, so it's a great way for you to keep in contact with your sellers, and you'd be able to manage your sellers in an easy way. Okay, everybody understand? So I know there's a lot of emails. There's also an email that comes out for your invoices. Okay, so that's another one that you'll get from View My Listing. So you don't want to discard these. There's a lot of good information on there. Okay, so we have some agents that go in that show their own properties, and so there's nothing that's automated on their system, but they'll go in there and they'll actually mark down feedback that's happened on that property. So it's just a great way to keep track of everything that has happened on that property. Okay, and then they can simply put in their owner's email address, and it'll send a real nice formal letter and all the showings that they've done on that property, showing that, this is the feedback I'm getting, these are how many showings we've done, maybe it's time to lower the price. Okay. There's also a drip email campaign in there as well, so your sellers can receive like once a month, a little article, just kind of keeping you in front of them. There's a calendar. There's, I always suggest using Outlook as your contact management system, but there is its own little contact management system in there. There is a calendar that'll mark off every time you've done a showing, so you can actually go back if you forgot what you did last week or a month ago, what you did for that property. You can go in and you can actually see everything you've done. Okay, so it's a very organized program, and like I said, there's no charge. You should definitely go in there, and it's a great way to keep track of your listings.
And you need a password.
Yes, and you can call me this afternoon or email me, and I'll get you a username and password if you don't know it already. But in those emails that you're receiving, there should be a login information that you just click on the link and it'll give you your information. But it's not a problem to get that.
I don't know why every time that I enter a new listing, I receive an email from my listing, and it says that it doesn't have photo.
It doesn't have a photo.
5 photos on it.
Sometimes if it doesn't pull down the photo, and it does automatically pull the photos from the MLS, if it doesn't trigger in time, then it sends out an email before the photos actually got from the MLS to the system. So if you had put your listing in and for some reason the timing didn't coordinate right with View My Listing, it'll send out an email saying there's no photos. But if you just give it a day, it'll automatically update. So you shouldn't have to do anything manually with the system because it'll automatically and it only puts 8 photos on it. So keep in mind, it's not going to put all the photos. Okay, but it's a great way for your sellers can go on there, and a username and password is sent to them. If you've given them an email, they can log on and they can view all the showings and any feedback that there is, and they can see that right there. So they have their own logins.
When are you having a class again?
I just had one a few weeks ago. I'll do another one next month in February, the first or second week in February. Okay, and then next week I'm doing one on Realist, I think. I'm sorry, Form Simplicity. Okay, so that should be a great class. Any questions? Okay.
I do have a question
Yes.
about the form simplicity. True Forms is not, you don't update the forms in True Forms anymore?
No, we do. We're updating the True Forms. Yeah, and I just recently updated a whole bunch of forms in there. So you can still use True Forms. It's the big difference that I say is with Form Simplicity, you can put in an MLS number and it automatically populate everything. So that's a real nice advantage. Everything's stored online, so you never have to worry about losing anything. True Forms is great, and I can't knock it. That's the big difference.
Yeah, it's a lot more work to make.
Form Simplicity or True
No,
Forms?
True Forms.
Yeah, well, being able to put in an MLS number and have it auto-populate is worth a ton.
I know I mentioned this to you once before. It would be really nice on that seller's net sheet if there was a way we could put that in and compute it rather than just printing a form and then having to write it by hand. It would look a lot better in the listing packet.
Okay, we can look into that. Okay, I appreciate it. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Eric?
Your
Oh, what-
forms class,
Yes.
is that the basic class that you've been always holding, or is it the advanced?
Yeah, it's kind of basic to medium, intermediate.
All right, so we talked a little bit about legislation and a little bit about technology, and now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about marketing. So one of the things that I want to actually tell you is that, like Seth was pointing out, things keep going more and more digital. Technology is becoming a bigger player in everything that we do, and it's just going to keep getting stronger and stronger. So what does that mean for you guys moving forward into 2012? If you haven't already built a social network, You want to start doing that. And why is that very important? It's not so much that only young people are on Facebook, because that's something that a lot of agents have asked me, right? It's, oh, well, kids in college, my grandkids, they're all on Facebook. The thing that's actually happening is that the older generations, the baby boomers and beyond, are actually the highest using demographic of social media sites like Facebook and YouTube. Question, why? Well, it's kind of simple if you think about it. If your grandkids are on there and you're a grandparent, don't you want to go and check their pictures? Don't you want to see the birthday photos and the YouTube video and all those things? So they're now registering and they're using it and they're building their social network. And since they have more time at home and more time to learn all this technology, they're actually becoming much higher adopters of all of that. So what that means to you is that if you're working with baby boomers or retirees or people looking for second homes, there's a really high possibility that you're going to circle back with them on a social media site, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or even a blog where you're generating your own content, writing some articles, informing people about all those things that are happening that you're learning about. So those are some things that you really want to keep in mind and start looking at actively doing. The next thing that's very important about that is Google, Yahoo, Bing, all the search engines are starting to take the content and feed results to people on a hyper-local level. So what that means is that if you're in Boca Raton and you do a search, you're going to get different results than someone who's in New York doing a search for the exact same thing, because it's basing it on the IP address and the geo-targeted location of where you're searching from. So why that's very important to you guys is that if you're here in Boca or if you're working in Delray or West Palm or whatever the areas are that you're working, you want to just constantly be checking into places. If it's one of your own properties, check into it on Facebook or on some of those sites, because it's going to make a tag on all of your walls that shows people where you are. So when someone is looking on Google for realtors in Delray Beach, your tags, your Facebook posts, all of that is going to start appearing much more frequently. The other thing it's doing is it's starting to serve content and results back based on user interaction and engagement, and it's becoming more personalized. So it's taking your sphere of influence, which is all those people that you're fans with and friends with on Facebook and everything else, and it's saying if one of them commented on something, and now they're doing a search, all of a sudden, somehow it gives them back the feedback that their friend, Sue Moore, or Jamie Shatsky, is also interested in real estate in Boca Raton. That was a search term that appeared on a blog that she wrote or a video that she posted. And now it's going to be in their Bing results, or their Yahoo or their Google. So it's really starting to evolve into a much more personalized interaction. So if you, yes?
Will it recognize you as a realtor, or does it recognize you as your personal? Because when you check into somewhere, isn't it as a
Depends.
person?
Are you checking in on your realtor business page or your personal page? And that's actually a really good point.
So you can do that on,
So when you're doing anything realtor related, you want to actually have yourself set up as a business page. So you want to create yourself as a business entity. And it's a very simple process. Facebook keeps making it easier and easier. You can create place pages, people pages, fan pages, business pages, you name it. And actually, I worked with Arnold the other day because he responded to the email that I sent out a few weeks ago about, are you maximizing your website? And some of the things that you can do. So Arnold actually bought a domain on GoDaddy, arnoldsellsfloridahomes.com. He's now got it on all of his print materials and business cards. So anybody that types in arnoldsellsfloridahomes.com is going to be directed to his Lane Realty website. On his Lane Realty website, he's talking about all the things that he does, his experience, his listings appear. He's also telling them to find him on Facebook. And he created a business page on Facebook the other day that's called Arnold Sells Florida Homes. So now anybody that's looking for Arnold Sells Florida Homes is going to find his Facebook page, they're going to find his web page, they're going to go to his Lane site, they're going to be able to search the MLS, and they're going to contact him. So if Arnold goes on a showing, and he wants to check into one of those houses, he's going to check in as arnoldsellsfloridahomes.com. He's not going to check in as Arnold Jacobs, because what he wants is to start building a reputation on his realtor page. So that's the difference. A lot of you might already have social pages that are for your friends and your family, and all of that is great. Go on, create a Facebook page as a business, and then like yourself as a person, and like all of your friends, and send them an invite that says, hey, join my business page. But the one big thing that you want to make sure you do on your business page, and this is very important, is you want to contribute. You don't want to sell. And the big difference with that is that if all you do is post listing after listing after listing, people are going to block you. The biggest thing that you can do to be relevant in social media, and this is the same thing with blogs or anything else that you do that's user-generated content, what you want to do is you want to spend 50% of your time contributing and participating. So you want to go and read someone else's wall, or read someone else's blog, comment on it, participate with it, engage with it. The other part that you want to do is you want to share information. So that should be 40% of your time, is share a relevant news article. Leave here today and talk about what you learned from Princeton Title that Seth did a great job of presenting to you guys. And share that information, because now you're a relevant resource for real estate. And the last 10% of the time that you spend on any of those social media sites should be selling. So that's where you're going to put, hey, look, I've got this great listing. It's an open house this Saturday. Come check it out. Because by that point, when that's the smallest percentage of what you do, you've already engaged people at the largest percentage. So they're much more likely to look at your open house, or to share that link, or to tell someone, hey, I know this really great realtor that always puts all this information out there, and you should check it out too. And now your sphere is going to just keep growing and growing. The best part, it's free. It's only going to cost you some time. And with technology, you can do Facebook on your cell phone, you can do it on your iPad, you can do it from any tablet, any PC, anywhere. So there's really no reason not to be maximizing it. And like I said, it's definitely the way that people are going to continue to engage and interact. And Lang has a Facebook page that we very successfully built up and gotten a much higher fan base. We have some agents that utilize it very, very well. They're constantly talking about their open houses or their showings, or if they've had a great sale. They also ask their clients to come and post a testimonial about them. That's a terrific way to, again, get exposure for yourself. And the next piece of it that's extremely important is YouTube. So YouTube is actually the second most visited site in the world, next to Google, and shockingly, YouTube is owned by Google. But why is that important to you again? Same thing. Your virtual tours can all be put on Google and on YouTube. And when someone types in an address or real estate in a certain city, you're just helping yourself get found that much more effectively, quickly, and easily. So create your virtual tours, post them on YouTube. Create your own YouTube accounts. Don't be afraid to do a 30-second, 1-minute personal introduction about who you are, why you sell a certain property. You can even do your own virtual tours at listings if you want to, that don't have to be about, here's a picture of the room, here's anything else. Talk about the house. Just 30 seconds. Stand in front of the house, talk about it. Give the address, give the city, give some information, and make it personal and relevant, because people that like you are going to then go watch that video, they're going to comment on that video, and it's going to become much more about you as a realtor. And that's really what you want to keep selling, because you're going to sell that first house and then you're going to move on to the next one and the next one. But the only consistent thread is you as a realtor. So you want to build that reputation online and make sure that you're projecting that image and that confidence, so that way, as you keep going on presentations, you have more and more things in your arsenal. It's not just about print media, which is extraordinarily important, but that print media has to drive people somewhere. So you want to make sure that wherever they land is as relevant and built up as all of those direct mail pieces and those newspaper articles and those listing articles. So that's a little bit about social media and technology and where it's going. If you have any questions, we can definitely try to answer them for you. Yes, Smiley.
Well, I have a real estate business page, and I don't know what to do with it, because I just set it up and I put a couple listings on it, and then I just never went back on it. I don't really know how to restart it.
Okay. Well, the easy thing is you can restart it by logging in anytime. And what you're going to want to do is just make sure that on the description page where it talks about you as a realtor, put any of your website links on there. Another thing you can also, and all of you can do this, is you can log into Realtor.com and build a profile page about yourself and add links back and forth. Anything that allows you to build a profile page, put a picture up, and put a website link, go on and do it. Take the weekend, spend some time, and go for it. Because that way what you're going to be able to do is just keep building that online reputation. Everywhere they go, there's going to be a link to go find you somewhere else. And it's going to be all about selling the sizzle and not the steak, right? You're just going to be this larger-than-life person online because they're going to find you on your Realtor.com page, your Lang Realty page, any other independent pages that you have, your Facebook page, your YouTube page, all these different pages where people can find you. So about re-engaging with your site, go on now and post a couple of updates about things that we talked about today in the meeting. You know, if there's something that you learned from insurance or from titles or from anything else, talk about it, post about it, and at the same time, go and take some of the people that you're fans with on your business page and comment on some of the things that they've done. Because that's going to appear in everybody else's newsfeed as, you know, Miley Jarrett liked so-and-so's page, or Miley Jarrett commented on this. And that's going to, again, keep you in front of a lot of people. And the more you comment on people's things, the more likely they are to comment back on your own. And that's kind of how you start getting that network going. Yes?
I thought that I did a business page a couple of years ago, and I wound up with a second personal page.
Okay.
which I think I've finally gotten rid of. But do you go on Facebook and under your personal and then create another page? or
What you do is you go to Facebook, and don't log in at all. And if it automatically logs you in, do the logout. And at the bottom in the footer, it's a little hyperlink, a word link, that says create page, or create new page, or I forget what they changed it to. Click there, it's going to open up a new screen that has, I think it's 6 options for you. And you'll just click the one that says create a new business page. And then it walks you through the steps. It takes like 10 minutes to set it up. And if you don't have a picture to use on your business page, in the case of Arnold, what we did was we typed in his hyperlink to his Lang Realty page, and it just let him pick from any of his listings. So he had a picture of one of his listings on there as his business page until he could go into his personal computer and upload a profile. So don't let that stop you. You don't have to wait till you get home. You can do it from any of the offices. Any other questions?
Is that lead paving?
Yeah.
Can you?
Squeeze by.